Hello everybody, good afternoon. I'm Simon Woods. I'm President and CEO of the League of American Orchestras, and it is just fabulous to see you all here in Pittsburgh. Thank you for being here. And first of all, let's just say a big thank you to Jacob Joyce and these incredible young musicians. Pittsburgh is one of the few orchestras in this country which actually has two major youth orchestras. And so we thought it would be totally appropriate that they should both be featured on this stage. So at the end, you're going to hear from the Three Rivers Young People's Orchestra. That'll be to end this opening plenary. We're so thrilled to be gathering here in Pittsburgh, in this great city with its great cultural history. And we're especially pleased to be here in the downtown cultural district in this beautiful and acoustically fantastic hall, and more of that in a minute. I also want to welcome all those of you watching the live stream. We're glad you're here. I hope you'll be able to share a little of the energy we experienced. It was great this afternoon, just walking into the lobby of the Wyndham Grand and just feeling the energy, feeling so many conversations, and it's like that instantaneous reminder of how much our field likes to congregate and come together for discussion and great exchange of fellowship. So very, very happy to be here, and we hope that everybody on the live stream captures a little of that. Today's opening session has been generously sponsored by BMI. BMI is the bridge between composers and the organizations that play their music publicly. BMI represents over 20 million musical works created and owned by more than 1 million songwriters, composers, and music publishers. They're represented here today by Director of Classical Music, Chris McCormick. And Chris, I want to thank you wherever you are for your continued partnership and support and for everything you do. Thank you very much, Chris. Please thank BMI. In addition to BMI, we're incredibly grateful to the amazing response that we've had this year from our business partners. We have more than 40 different sponsors and funders this year. It's something of a record. So please stop by and see them in the exhibit hall and the ballroom on the second floor of the hotel. You'll have an opportunity to hear many of them in some sessions this week. It's a great group of people who support our field and are indeed an integral part of our field, and we're happy to have all the business partners with us here this week. Special thanks also to our program funders, including the Heinz Endowments, the Mellon Foundation, and the National Endowment for the Arts for their generous support of this year's conference. And last but not least, I want to offer sincerest thanks to Manfred Honeck, Melia Tourangeau, the entire Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra team and board, and the Pittsburgh Symphony Association volunteers. Conference is only ever as good as the host orchestra, and this host orchestra is very good. So please join me in thanking the Pittsburgh Symphony for hosting us. So we'll hear from Manfred Honeck in a little moment, but for now it's a great pleasure to welcome a very old friend, President and CEO of the PSO, Melia Tourangeau.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I have to say, I was the last time the League Pittsburgh hosted, I should say, the League conference was back in 2004. I was at that conference, and I never imagined I'd be sitting here to have the privilege of being the CEO of the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra and hosting all of our colleagues from around the country and the world. So thank you for coming to Pittsburgh and being a part of this incredible few days, and welcome to our city. So on behalf of the Pittsburgh Symphony Musicians Staff and Board, our Board of Directors, we do want to welcome you to this great city and to Heinz Hall for the Performing Arts, which is our home. I always say that a city's orchestra is a calling card to the quality of the community that supports it. And that is certainly the case here in Pittsburgh. When our musicians describe the characteristics of this orchestra and the community describes the characteristics of this city, they use the same adjectives, phrases like, we punch above our weight, there's a raw authenticity and excitement about the sound, we're always going for it, and we have a huge sense of pride here in Pittsburgh, something that's pretty special. You're going to experience that tonight when you hear this orchestra, and we hope you experience that today, this few days while you're here in our city. It's an enormous honor to be hosting the League of American Orchestras for this year's conference, and I want to thank Simon and the entire staff at the League and the League's Board of Directors for their tremendous work. We look forward to offering a great night of music this evening, followed by an incredible tune-up party with weather cooperating. The tune-up party is showcasing our neighborhoods of Pittsburgh. As you know, we are the home of Mr. Rogers, and all things neighborhood is very important to us here. And along with that, each neighborhood will have its own bit of Pittsburgh flair with the local cuisine, so we're looking forward to sharing that with you. In a moment, I'm going to introduce to you the mayor of Pittsburgh, Mayor Ed Gainey. But before we do that, there's a little bit of a special swag in your goodie bags that I wanted to explain. For more than 250 years, the great city of Pittsburgh has been associated with the colors black and gold, including notably our sports teams, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Penguins, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. In 1975, one of the most iconic rallying symbols, the terrible towel, was created by late Steelers broadcaster Myron Cope to inspire fan involvement in a playoff game. And it was the magic touch because the Steelers went on to win the Super Bowl that year. And since then, it has been seen, the terrible towel has been seen all over the world, including when the Pittsburgh Symphony tours internationally, and it was even waved from the International Space Station. For decades, the terrible towel has also been an important charitable connection to the Marquee Allegheny Valley School, which supports individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and which is a longtime supporter or partner with the Pittsburgh Symphony, for whom we perform an annual concert. Nothing rallies Pittsburghers more than a terrible towel. And so in that spirit, Pittsburgh Steelers President Art Rooney II and the Pittsburgh Steelers have generously provided your commemorative terrible towel in honor of our conference, and with the hope that we might find some magic and unity in our purpose of building bridges together for the future together over the next few days. And with that, I'd like to introduce the Mayor of Pittsburgh, Mayor Ed Gainey, to the stage.
Come on now, we can do better. Get your towels out. Get your towels out, huh? To the League of American Orchestras Conference, thank you for being in our city. Thank you for being here today. We call Pittsburgh home, and not just us that's here domestically that live here, but for you, for everybody that comes and visit our city. We want you to feel like you're at home. We want you to know you're in our downtown that we see as our living room. And we want you to take in the beautiful sights, not only of our downtown, but also of our parks, also of our 3 rivers and our natural assets that we have. They're beautiful. I promise you, you will have a great time. We want you to enjoy our city like you're in your living room and you're watching something amazing. Because what we want you to take back from this to the communities and the cities in which you come from is that come on and visit Pittsburgh and have a wonderful time. So I'm encouraging everybody to get out, get some of this sunshine. Now, the one thing you will notice about our city is that we get 4 seasons in one day. So whatever season you like, you will be able to enjoy in our city. Am I right about that? The Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra is hosting the League of American Orchestras' 78th conference in the great city on June 14th to June 16th, 2023. Whereas the vision of Andrew Carnegie that the Pittsburgh Orchestra should take a permanent place among the great symphony organizations of our country, when few cities had come to fruition even to have one, as we established it in 1896. The Symphony Orchestra, one of the world's greatest orchestras, has more than a century of history of encouraging the finest conductors and musicians, and a deep commitment to the city and its people through its concerts, recordings, radio and television, broadcasting, community engagement. And whereas Manfred Honeck, did I get it correct? Want to make sure I give respect. There we go. Now in his 15th season as the music director of the Symphony Orchestra is one of the world's leading conductors whose distinct interpretations have brought a great international acclaim to our city, and who was awarded a Grammy. Y'all should clap for that. Who was awarded a Grammy. Come on. Who was awarded a Grammy for Best Orchestral Performance in 2018. And whereas Byron Stripling, did I get it right? All right, I got to make sure I get names right. Now in his third season as a principal pops conductor of the symphony, is a virtuous trumpet player, and a remarkable conductor who brings an infectious and captivating charm to audiences around the world. The League of American Orchestras, with a diverse membership of more than 700 in all 50 states and more than 27,000 individual members. Wow, y'all should clap for that. Leads, supports, and champions America's greatest production ever. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Ed Gainey, the mayor of our great city, ask you to enjoy yourself, have a great day, and to the Pittsburgh Orchestra, it's for you. I just got one question. Just by a raise of hands, I think I can see. I ain't got on my readers, but I think I can see. How many of you from outside the city?
Wow, that's impressive. That's good for
visiting. That's right.
Y'all just made my year. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the mayor. It's so wonderful to hear from him and his passion for this city, which we feel just being here. So, if you don't know it already, the partnership between Manfred Honeck and the Pittsburgh Symphony musicians is something quite remarkable. It's one of the great artistic stories in American orchestras today. Every time I hear them, I'm reminded about the magic that's produced when the stars aligned on stage. The combination of the orchestra's virtuosity and their sonic beauty, the immediacy and the impact of the acoustics in this hall, which is a very physical experience. If you haven't been to this hall, you'll hear it tonight. It's very immediate. And Manfred Honeck's really compelling and original interpretive vision. They all come together in this relationship, and it's a very, very, very special experience for the audience. And I've been here a few times this year, and it's always memorable. And we're very, very thrilled that Manfred Honeck is with us this week. We're thrilled to be able to hear him with the orchestra, but we're especially thrilled to be able to welcome him now to the stage to make a few remarks. So please welcome Manfred Honeck.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to see you all here in the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra, and I extend you a very warm welcome. You have come from different parts of America and the entire world. You are here to talk about art, creating art, and this unique moment in the time. All of us are dedicated to serve one form of art. Music, which is always present where people meet. Music is an enigma, an inexplicable gift from other world, a language of the unspeakable. We humans have two levels in which we can think. One is logic, rational thinking, reason, which leads to progress, technology, performance, and science. The other level does not seem to be a way of thinking. It is intuitive, following the logic of the heart. Its main drivers are imagination and love. Happiness, joy, and peace, or unhappiness, hate, and pain are all experienced through feelings. The conductor, Nicholas Hanencourt, put it like this: emotion and mood are their expression, music their language. Some philosophers believed that it is art which makes humans human. Beethoven said it clearly in his Prometheus. Art is an inexplicable, magical gift, a magical language, a miracle. But what role does music play for us? Should it just bring peace of mind after a day at work? Should it simply entertain us? Yes, it's true. Music always changes. It can elicit all possible feelings from deep joy to profound sadness. And as a result, it also has been misused in some political systems. Dictatorships always want to patronize art because it speaks an unassailable language. It is incorruptible. We saw this under Nazi or Soviet rule. The true artist cannot but show a certain degree of opposition. Today, music plays a lesser role in the school system. The core subjects limit the path towards thinking with the heart. This dampening of the human spirit leads to noticeable deficits in society. The price is high if we risk to be measured only in terms of utility. We here know it. Music ignites the human spirit. It allows us to rediscover the sense of our existence. But music is also subject to fashion. We think differently about music today than we did in other periods of time. Beethoven's Fifth was rejected at its world premiere, yet today it could hardly be more popular. The same is true with style. Today we would find the fashion of the 50s and 60s outdated. In 50 years from now, people will probably also smile when looking at our style. But with art, great art remains great art. Today, the threat to our form of art is often economical. But I'm convinced, even if the economic pressure is enormous, art must never bow to mediocrity. We must always seek the higher, the irreplaceable, the unique. It is a big mistake to submit oneself programmatically or artistically to a pragmatic survival model. In such a case, the decline has already begun. One of our major challenges is certainly the great enthusiasm for new technology, which I share in and its use in the field of classical music. To illustrate this, I have asked ChatGPT the following question. Danger of new technology for classic music. 3 seconds later, I had the following text on my phone. It's actually quite longer, but I do it a little bit shorter. While new technology offers many opportunities for classic music, there are also some potential challenges and risks to consider. First, loss of authenticity. Second, accessibility divide. Third, copyright and piracy. Fourth, attention span and fragmentation. Fifth, devaluation of music. Ultimately, careful consideration and strategic implementation of technology can help to overcome these dangers and foster the growth and appreciation of classical music in the digital age. So, this was ChatGPT's quick response. Impressive, isn't it? However, we can't allow software to do all the thinking for us. We need real people who understand and represent today's world of classic music. People who vigilantly guard this enormous treasure. People who have both the passion for the tradition and the creativity to make it shine more through the many possibilities of new technology. I recently met Pittsburgh-born director Peter Sellers 2 weeks ago in San Francisco. He told me something I would like to share with you. He said, "When you surround yourself with the right people, you can never go wrong. But if you surround yourself with the wrong people, you can never get right." I find this true in every sense. We need to surround ourselves with curious people who deeply understand the value of music and who can work to develop a proper economic strategy to support that aspiration. But who are these real people? It is you. You have loved music and give the best of your talents to the world. You have come to a city that has long played a major role in industry and still does, also in sports. Pittsburgh has reinvented itself economically and is now a thriving, reborn city. It has also able to steward and guide one of its internationally acknowledged treasures, our beloved Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra, which is truly one of the best in the world. Tonight, you will hear a concert which includes a world premiere by the very talented Stacey Garob. We asked her to compose a work connected to Pittsburgh, and among many possible topics, she chose the subject of steel. You will also hear a rising star talent in violinist Maria Duenas. Earlier this year, I recorded Beethoven's violin concerto with her in Vienna on the Deutsche Grammophon label. You will hear also two works written for ballet, Stravinsky's Firebird and Ravel's Bolero, performed tonight with our fantastic partners at Pittsburgh Ballet Theatres. We are proud to have this special performance on stage. In closing, I hope that you enjoy this vibrant city and especially the wonderful music at Heinz Hall tonight. And I wish you all the best for this, and God bless you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Manfred, for those very beautiful remarks. One of the things I've learned over many years working in the orchestra business about speeches is never follow the music director. But here it is again. It was really great to hear from Manfred, some really inspiring thoughts there to set us up. So before I introduce the keynote speaker, I want to take a couple of minutes to share some personal thoughts about conference as we embark on another few days of presentations, discussion, and reflection. As you know, the title for this conference is Bridges to the Future. Quite apart from the obvious, maybe too obvious, Pittsburgh imagery, I find the concept of bridges to the future a powerful expression of what this moment feels like. Standing on a bridge, looking back to where we've come from, finding that it maybe feels increasingly less like home, and looking forward to a new place that we don't yet have a map of. Drawing that map is exciting, and we're seeing it happen in real time as orchestras experiment with new concert formats, like the Pittsburgh Symphony's new Disrupt series, broaden the repertoire, build contemporary relevance into their programming, and work to integrate inclusion into their cultures. It's an incredibly different feeling to what it felt like even 5 years ago, and it's energizing to be part of. And the world we're working in continues to contain huge unknowns. Will some of our major urban downtowns ever fully recover? What do we make of the attendance and philanthropic trends we're seeing? How do we engage with the issues of our time in a society that is so deeply polarized? What can we learn from the young people who will carry forward this art form? And as Manfred said, what about artificial intelligence? We can scarcely even start to imagine the impact that AI is going to have on our working practices and on our creativity. And I predict that as we gather this time next year in Houston for the conference, AI will be a much bigger part of our agenda than it is this year. But meanwhile, music in its most resolutely acoustic and untechnological form continues, I feel, to be our anchor. Just last weekend in my town, where I live in Montclair, New Jersey, there was an outdoor chamber music concert in the park where 400 or 500 people sat rapt listening to George Walker's Lyric for Strings, Samuel Barber's Dover Beach, and a lovely Haydn quartet. And by the way, George Walker, as it happens, lived in Montclair, New Jersey for a couple of decades, so a fact that I actually didn't realize until fairly recently. Anyway, so this concert, the sound system was absolutely not up to the job. If you were sitting near the back, you had to work really hard to feel connected with the music. But there was total silence as people strained to listen, as parents quietened their kids so as not to disturb the magic of the moment. It was a tangible reminder of the nourishment of live music and the communal sharing of the arts that communities crave. And it was something that will play out in parks and in urban spaces across the country this summer in many of the orchestras you work in and support. Never underestimate the power of the shared experience of music, even in the most informal circumstances. And this past year, I've been on the road a lot, so I had the privilege of seeing many orchestras' impact at close hand. I continue to marvel at the passion, the skill and creativity of our field, and particularly at how close-knit and convivial and collegial we are for such a large country. That collegiality strikes me as being our superpower for the change we hope for in our field. And as our new demographic report issued just last week shows, we are still called by the need to overcome systemic barriers to change. It's exciting to report that demographically, progress has been made in some areas, and we can feel good about that, both in our individual organizations and for the field. And yet in other areas, too little has changed over too many years. So it feels really incredibly important to in this moment to lean into the discomfort of some of that data with some humility and ask again, what could we do differently? On stage, learning together is what orchestras do so effectively. This year, I've had the very enjoyable privilege to be able to observe the New York Philharmonic grow into David Geffen Hall over the course of the season, and it's been fascinating. The sound the orchestra makes in the hall now is distinctly different to the sound the orchestra made at the very first concerts back in September, the result of a myriad of tiny shifts in balance, articulation, and playing style as an orchestra makes as it learns how the space that it's playing in reacts to sound. It's a phenomenon that all our acoustic friends know. Paul Scarborough, who's the acoustician of David Geffen Hall, I was just talking about this very subject with him this morning. It's a phenomenon all acousticians know, and it's a phenomenon that everybody who's ever been involved in the opening of a hall knows. The hall changes even though it doesn't change as the orchestra plays. And as I think about that idea, I find it a good analogy for our field. As we consider how our art form can more inclusively mirror American society, what ideas need to come forward in the balance, and what thinking that no longer serves us needs to recede. Everyone in this hall, just like every musician on stage, has the power to play an individual leadership role in that collective work of adaptation that we're currently engaged in. And talking of leadership, in the plenary sessions this week, we'll hear from some particularly inspiring individuals who will share their own personal leadership journeys with us. We'll hear, of course, from Deborah Border, who will receive the League's Gold Baton Award tomorrow lunchtime, who is somebody who has, throughout her career, exemplified visionary leadership. And I'll have more to say about her tomorrow. And she'll receive the Gold Baton from Jamie Bernstein, who has devoted her life to preserving her father's incalculable legacy while developing her own leadership journey through music in this country. We'll hear from Byron Stripling, the Pittsburgh Symphony's principal pops conductor, who has a very personal and inspiring story in music that I think some of our education and community members heard yesterday. Really, that'll be well worth hearing. And then on Friday lunchtime, unfortunately, we've lost Kiran Singh Sira from our closing plenary due to sickness. So instead, we've convened, at short notice, an amazing panel of emerging leaders from our student constituency. We called out in our recent League strategic framework that we wanted to raise up the voices of young people in everything we do at the League. And this is the start of that work. An accidental moment where we were able to do something beautiful. I can't wait to hear from those young people tomorrow, on Friday. So now to our keynote for this afternoon. It gives me very great pleasure to welcome the Chair of the National Endowment for the Arts, Maria Rosario Jackson. The NEA is a critical partner with the cultural sector in advancing arts leadership across the country, and we're very grateful for the support the endowment provides to the League and to orchestras nationwide through direct grants, support for state and regional arts agencies, and through its research agenda and interagency partnerships. I've had the great pleasure of knowing Dr. Jackson for a few years now, going back to my Los Angeles days, and I'm really so thrilled that she's here to address us today. Her biography is quite remarkable and far too long for me to read out here, but I'll just summarize it by saying that she brings an extraordinarily deep and rigorous background in urban planning, public administration, research, strategy, institutional giving, and teaching. And Dr. Jackson is, by the way, the first NEA chair to be an African-American and Mexican-American woman. But yes. But most importantly, she comes with a deep love of the arts and a very personal attachment to the broader role they play in community and society that I touched on and that Manfred touched on, and I think is so relevant for all of us. And there's a lot to be learned from her. So I hope you enjoy her remarks, and please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Maria Rosario Jackson.
Thank you, Simon, for that warm welcome and introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm delighted to join you all today to kick off the League of American Orchestra's 78th National Conference, hosted by the wonderful Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. I'm grateful to Simon and the League's conference team for inviting me to share some thoughts with you today. And to everyone in attendance, thank you for all you do to advance music, culture, and creativity in your communities. Your work is critical to helping us all fulfill our potential as individuals, as a nation, and as a global community. I'm honored and proud to lead the National Endowment for the Arts. We're a small but mighty agency with what I think of as a huge and crucial mission. In my mind's eye, the mission of the endowment is tied to how well we do as a nation, how well we do as communities, and how well we do as individuals. What I know for sure is that none of the things that we say we aspire to as a country of opportunity are possible or durable without the arts and related work. The music organizations represented here today help us make sense of the world, offer us different ways of thinking, feeling, being. They're a source of inspiration and innovation. They help us protect and advance our humanity and that of our neighbors. This is a unique time. As a result of a global pandemic, we're emerging from a period where we've had to adjust our lifestyles, reimagine ways of working, and reconsider what it means to take care of each other in our communities. This also has been a time of visible and heightened inequities and injustices that demand our attention, a complicated and fractured political landscape, and many promises to do better as a society. The entire creative sector has been impacted seriously. Some concert halls have closed, performances canceled or reimagined on the virtual stage. And even now, low ticket sales and audience audience numbers for many are a source of concern. And as the sector recovers, it has been and continues to be a difficult time. But as I've visited communities around the country and met with arts organizations and artists, I've found that there's also evidence of strength, great flexibility, and even a sense of possibility. We're in a time that demands learning from examined experience and not just snapping back to what was pre-pandemic. The last 3 years have taught us that in some cases we don't have to do what we've always done the way we've always done it. And that what we may have thought of as orthodoxy might be just one approach among many that we should consider going forward. While there's hardship, to be sure, this is also a time of possibility as we imagine what a new version of the sector can be. This time in history requires that we understand the arts as being at the heart of our efforts to evolve, heal, and change. As I share with you the direction that I'm taking with the National Endowment for the Arts, it's important that I reference some fundamental principles that undergird my approach. First, all people have the capacity to be creative. Creativity is an individual and community asset from which to build. Communities are not blank slates. Especially in historically marginalized communities, the creativity and culture that does exist in them is sometimes overlooked or underappreciated. Orchestra leaders know, in this audience especially, know firsthand that creativity is both an individual and community asset from which we can and must build. Second, the ability for people to be expressive and tell their own stories on their own terms is a critical dimension of justice and equity. It's part of our American ethos, and orchestras have an important role to play in that. Third, arts and cultural activity happens in many kinds of places. Of course, in those places that are dedicated to the arts, like this gorgeous, gorgeous venue, but also in community centers and houses of worship, commercial venues, schools, parks, public streets. And while people participate as audience and consumers, people also engage in the arts by making, doing, teaching, learning. This is evident among the musicians that comprise the 2 youth orchestras performing here. Fourth, art process can be as important as, or even in some cases more important than art product. And that's sometimes a hard concept to grasp because we're socialized to look at the thing that we'll consume. But the act of being in a creative process, especially the collective creative process that is the everyday practice of orchestras, has value in and of itself. That process often generates agency, stewardship, social cohesion, self-discovery, curiosity about others. It contributes to the creation of new narratives and enables us to hold nuance and appreciate complexity, all often preconditions for other community goals and all the things that we aspire to as a free nation of opportunity. Fifth, artists and designers have many kinds of relationships to publics and roles within communities. In addition to the traditional ways that we think of what musicians and arts organizations do, I believe that some of the orchestras represented in this room can help us imagine and achieve communities and cities we want to see thrive. Sixth and last, music and the arts are intrinsically important, full stop. At the same time, they're important because they contribute to other community dynamics and can help address community needs and aspirations. They're inextricable from what we hold most dear. Unleashing the full power of art, including that of orchestras, requires not existing in a bubble, in isolation. The arts must be woven into the fabric of our lives, part of our daily lived experiences, and again, inextricable from what we value most. At their most powerful, the arts are at the heart of social change and part of our civic infrastructure. They're part of the arrangements, structures, and relationships that we rely on to care for each other. As I've traveled and spoken around the country, an idea that I've been advancing focuses on the importance of all people having the opportunity to live artful lives. And artful lives is an inclusive concept. It includes a wide range of experiences, including deeply meaningful practices and expressions that are part of our everyday lives, as well as the production, presentation, and experience or consumption of professional artwork. That whole spectrum is invaluable. In addition to the concept of artful lives, I've also been talking about how the next version of the sector requires more attention to animating the work at the intersection of arts and other areas such as education, community development, climate, and very importantly, health and well-being. At the Arts Endowment, we're enthusiastic about helping advance the notion of the arts at the intersection of other sectors, including partnerships with other federal agencies. And we're not starting from scratch. For example, we've been working with our federal partners at the National Institutes of Health, as well as the Kennedy Center, Renee Fleming, and the University of California, San Francisco. It's on a project called the Sound Health Network, which brings together artists, neuroscientists, music therapists, researchers, and others to better understand the many connections between music, health, and wellness. The NEA's support is helping to build the network, which can facilitate individual and collaborative efforts. We're learning and documenting how music can improve our wellness across a lifespan. As I travel around the country, I'm seeing important local efforts that signal a deeper understanding of the connection between the arts, and especially music, to health and wellness. And this is happening at the local level in many places. Just last week, I participated in a summit on arts and health in Los Angeles, organized by the LA County Department of Arts and Culture and LA Opera. It involved activations highlighting the work of large and small organizations in this realm, and sessions highlighting new findings about the impact of arts and music, especially on health. There's evidence of efforts to advance inclusivity, but still not enough. All around the country, I've heard forward-thinking cultural leaders talk about the importance of commissioning and presenting new work that represents rich diversity in our country, varied perspectives, the stories and voices of communities that haven't been heard, work that helps us navigate a complicated terrain. And sometimes this is at odds with the desire to sell out a venue and relied on tried and true crowd pleasers. There are signs of promising practices and powerful ways of situating music and what it has to offer, but certainly more are needed. We need systemic work to remove barriers, advance inclusivity, and truly unleash the healing and transformative power of the arts. Last fall, President Biden issued an all-of-government executive order recognizing the contributions of arts and humanities on the health and well-being of the nation and on the future of democracy itself. He directed all federal agencies to collaborate with the National Endowment for the Arts, the National Endowment for the Humanities, and the Institute for Museum and Library Services. And he lifted up the centrality of the arts to all of the work that the country needs. At a recent ceremony honoring National Medal of Arts recipients, President Biden called artists truth tellers, bridge builders, and change seekers. And last night at a concert at the White House in honor of our newest federal holiday, Juneteenth, a celebration of freedom and an acknowledgement of slavery in our troubled history, a deeply moved President Biden spoke about the power of music to help us heal the soul of our nation. Inspired by this sensibility and the long-held core ideas I shared earlier, the NEA is leaning into our role as a grant maker and as a national resource. We continue to be a grant-making organization, which is how we're known best. For example, we're thrilled and proud that we helped support the commission and world premiere performance tonight of composer Stacey Garrett's new composition, Forging Steel, as part of the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra's 125th anniversary celebration, and will continue to help fund important projects by orchestras and other arts organizations such as this. It's beautiful work. In addition, we're ramping up our role as a catalyst, convener, connector, offering a platform for important ideas, new ways of working that strengthen the cultural sector and unlock new opportunities for artists and arts organizations to help shape our nation, to contribute to the well-being of our citizens, and help to create the environment where all people can thrive and reach their full potential. We're proud that the NEA is increasingly seen by the federal family as a key partner in our quest to advance racial equity and better outcomes for historically marginalized communities, our quest to address health of our planet, our work to stop hate-fueled violence like the senseless massacre that occurred at the Tree of Life Synagogue 5 years ago, right here. As a national resource, the NEA will access all of the assets it has at its disposal, and this includes grant money and financial resources for bolstering existing programs and special initiatives, but it also means leveraging our relationships with other federal agencies, using the pulpit and bullhorn of the executive branch, the imprimatur of the federal government, the infrastructure of state arts organizations, regional arts organizations, and local arts agencies, as well as other networks, in being strategic about our ability to convene, be a catalyst, offer thought partnership, thought leadership, do and commission research, among other functions. I'm excited about the roles that orchestras of all sizes and types can play in infusing arts into our civic infrastructure, in helping us to all see our common humanity and create the just communities we and generations to come deserve. Please know that the NEA is here to walk alongside you as we adapt, dream big together, and work outside of our traditional lanes. We can do our best work only if we have open channels of communication with you and have the benefit of your experience, perspective, and reach. And finally, I want to take a moment to offer a special recognition to the two youth orchestras, the Pittsburgh Youth Symphony Orchestra and the Three Rivers Young People's Orchestras performing here. These organizations strive to create dynamic and inclusive communities of young musicians who celebrate diversity and open themselves to new ways of thinking, being, and performing. These musicians bring a sense of excitement about classical music to audiences young and old, and they're a testament to what can happen when we invest in bolstering healthy communities. Music education is a critical component of a well-rounded education and artful life. The future looks brighter thanks to the next generation of creative musicians who are also shaping the world. So let's keep the music going in all the places where it's needed. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a fruitful convening.
Thank you so much, Chair Jackson, for those remarks. You know, as I was listening to them, I was struck so much by the notion that we spend so much time, I think, in our field thinking about what happens in these great halls. And actually, the vision that the chair described of lives, of communities lived in proximity to art, and lives lived in proximity to art, and the role that the arts can play in health, in healthy communities, and in helping people be the most fully realized versions of themselves in our communities. It's incredibly powerful, and it's part of that notion of, what is that new world that we're discovering? What is that sense of invention that is going on right now that we're creating in real time? So it's very, very powerful to hear it. And I'm going to personally look forward to digesting her remarks later, because I think there's a lot in there that we can learn from. So thank you very much, Chair Jackson. Okay, so a few last administrative things before we have some music. And wow, they came on so quietly that I didn't even realize they were there. That's pretty great. That's fantastic. So we're going to hear from the Three Rivers Young People's Orchestra. But before that, I want to tell you a couple of things. First of all, tomorrow we kick off our League Giving Days. I know you have been waiting all year for that. This is our campaign that we do every year to support the League's annual fund. And, you know, I want to remind you, as I do every year, that our budget is no different to the budgets of orchestras. Earned income from membership dues only covers around a third of the cost of doing all the work the League does in the year supporting orchestras. So please consider supporting us. Even the smallest gift is meaningful as we work toward the goal. And the goal this year, we've set ourselves as an ambitious target of $50,000. So we really sincerely hope and beg and implore you to help us get there. We've made it very easy for you. You received a card at registration with a text to give option. It's a QR code linking to the online donation pages. And this year we have some really wonderful raffle prizes for those who donate. Please stop by the Donor Engagement Center on level 2 in the hotel, and our team will be ready to chat with you and hear your impressions of conference, and will happily take your gift. Tonight we'll see you back here for the Pittsburgh Symphony concert. It's going to be tremendous. As the mayor reminded us, it's 4 seasons in one day. And with that in mind, I've been asked to suggest that everybody brings a jacket or a sweater, because it is going to be outside after the concert. And I'm very excited about this notion of food from different communities, which I didn't know until Melia mentioned that earlier. So I'm very excited about that. That sounds great. It's going to be a great party. And so now we're going to wrap up this plenary with some music, and it is my very great pleasure to introduce the Three Rivers Young People's Orchestra, who will play Umoja, Anthem of Unity by Valerie Coleman, under the direction of their music director and conductor, Brian Worsdale. So to them I say thank you. To you I say particularly thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the League. I just have tremendous love and admiration for this group of people. I can't wait for conference every year. I find our wonderful profession a place of deep stimulation and fellowship, and it is truly an honor to be with 1,000 of my best friends here for a week in Pittsburgh. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you in the conference. Have a wonderful conference. Thank you.
Thank you.